Hello.
Norman, good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
We are live, my friend.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Amy, I'm going to hang up on my phone because now I can see and hear. Good. Everything is good. Okay.
Norman, how are
Go.
you doing in New York?
I'm doing good. Everything is good. We had some, yeah, I have a COVID-19 growth.
Yeah, mine got so big, my beard got so big, I thought to myself, this is not your look. And so I tried it. I wasn't trying out for a movie, and so I decided to go back to my regular look. So Norman, you have a tremendous background, finance on Wall Street. You've been involved in helping support a lot of different businesses, either investing or mentoring or coaching, advising, board member. You're now an adjunct professor at LIU teaching business and entrepreneurship. We ourselves have gone on trips to Uganda and supported refugees in their effort to grow their businesses. What's on your mind right now? Because it's, you must be thinking some really interesting thoughts. What's in your mind?
So, what's on my mind is breaking my brain because we have to figure out next steps. And next steps do not come without a real ethereal type of thinking. You have to remove yourself from the comfort zone of reality because nothing we're going through is in reality. So, in order to get there, what it requires is real existential thinking. We know, when I say we know, I mean the universal we. I don't mean you and me.
Right.
During these terrible times, during times of strain, of you don't know where things are, there are truly billions of dollars to be made, as well as the reverse, billions of dollars to be lost. And if you're not on one of those streams, you're on the other. And being able to hunker down and figure that out is the test of management. I want to say that there are reasons why some people make $40 million a year, and some people make 4 million, and some people make 400,000, and some people make 40,000, and they all have the same degree and the same qualification. What sets them apart? How do they meander and manage through these times that can allow that to happen? And we're talking about that. I teach a few courses at LIU. I'm a lecturer at the CUNY system, which is Brooklyn College and Queens College, Baruch. And what comes up more than anything is exactly what you're asking right this moment. The pandemic didn't exist then, and the same question comes up. So from that point of view, it is a level playing field. Being able to figure all this out takes a hardened look at where we are and to be insulated from harm. There are a million books written about this. A person like Susie Orman, who is a treasure in her own right, speaks about common sense. There's nothing that she's saying that you don't know. It's the discipline you have to bring in. Exactly what you put out there, Sean. You put out the discipline of what is required in order to make things work. Without the discipline, having knowledge is not great. That's the whole function of education. It gives you the knowledge. Now what?
Time out. I got a question. So this is important what you're talking about here. And so school kind of teaches you discipline. University, the entire process. There's a discipline to go through there. You're
There
disciplined
is.
going through school.
You have to, yes.
And yet, how many entrepreneurs don't make it through that because they may not fit within that kind of discipline? What I'm getting to is this: how do you create self-discipline? So as an entrepreneur, you got to create self-motivation. Nobody's telling you to make those phone calls. Nobody's telling you to do those emails. No one told me, Sean, go get yourself a show on 31 Days to Padded 2. Right? And so I had to self-discipline myself to show up every morning like we do. And what's the difference, and how can you, as a person today, create self-discipline and self-motivation to move forward? What does that look like in your mind? Because there seems to be, the discipline's a key thing, but self-discipline is harder because most people are disciplined by the environment, creates a discipline for them, versus having to create that on your own. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And
I'm very interested in your response to this.
It is, being an entrepreneur is the loneliest job in the world. You must be willing to give up everything and anything in order to have that discipline. And so, because of that, when you ask that question, you have to know next steps. And what you talk about is, what are you doing now? When you're an entrepreneur, you're always living in the now.
Yeah.
You're never reflecting on what you did and the accomplishments that you made. You're living now. And what am I doing now? And that's why it's such a lonely field, because you have to be the Indian guide, the compass, you have to be the directional, you have to be able to cover the weather meaning, like I talk about Sun Tzu. So you have to know the terrain, the weather. You have to know these disciplines.
Whether or not to go this way?
No, the circumstances of when forces are thrown upon you that you didn't expect, that's the weather.
Gotcha.
How do you get through a hurricane when you didn't expect one?
Mm-hmm.
What the ability to have this foresight, this planning, and then be able to make it happen in a way that gives you direction, absolute direction, is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs know direction. They know how to self-correct. They know how to bring other people into the fold to get on that journey. Entrepreneurs, like you have said in the past, you can only do one thing great. Entrepreneurs know how to bring in other people to do things great. If you look at the great corporations of today, the Apples, the Googles, the Facebooks, they had one, as you call it, ideator, and one individual doing it, and they learned how to then bring in the talent to do the other areas that they weren't so good in, or they don't have time for, or they're not capable of, and they were able to put that team together. Entrepreneurship is a living, working team.
Yeah. So time out again, Norm. So I'm going to go back to the question because we wandered a little bit there. It's all beautiful, great information. But how does somebody in Nairobi, we have Selena, how you doing? Shout out to you being on the show right here. How do we help somebody understand how to create self-discipline today, especially? Because what we hear is people are stuck. They're unclear, unsure, they're uncomfortable, right? And being, we've talked about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, but what you're bringing up is so critical, and that is the ability to be self-disciplined to be able to move forward. And what in your mind and in your experience in talking and working with so many entrepreneurs, what is their secret to staying self-disciplined and keeping things going, even in a difficult time like today?
They have a very strong sense of self.
Beautiful.
They are directed because they own that. They have to be. They are. It's
So
not the right word, but it's egocentric.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's egocentric. They are very powerful in their own minds to themselves, not in a way that makes them abusive. They know how to share that goal. They know what they want to do. And they're able to communicate that in a way. The communication is the foundation of what entrepreneurship is. If you cannot communicate it in a way that allows others to understand what you're bringing out, then it's just knowledge. Entrepreneurship is not knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm thinking about, Norman, is like, for instance, when I'm on a project, I'm working on something that's like a new endeavor. Like I just launched a music publishing. I'm going to be publishing music now. Music publisher. First time ever. But I'm having to self-motivate myself to go figure out, how do you register with BMI? What does that mean? How do I publish the song? What do I have to do to make sure the song is protected? How do I position it for licensing? How do I, it's all self-driven. Nobody's standing behind me going, Sean, you should be doing this. This would be a good thing for you to do. You got these songs coming out and maybe you should publish those because that's how you can make more money. It's all internal directed and motivated. And I'm just, there's something to this, what you're bringing up that I think is hard for people to, I find it very rare. It's a rare characteristic for people.
And that's correct.
To do it on your own without any direction and the discipline to do that. There's got to be a secret to that, something.
So the secret comes from the self. It comes from the individual. Every single corporation that has achieved this patent or this artificial intelligence or this production function from the beginning of time until the 1920s, people assembled products, and what they did is they did it in stages, and Henry Ford comes around and creates the production line. That was never done before. We're not talking about the character of the person. We're talking about the genius of the person.
But he's driven by. We had Morteza Zaidi on, and you've never met Morteza. Morteza is like the Elon Musk of Pakistan. Okay. He's got an electric car company and turned around one of his manufacturing areas into creating masks. So, Elon Musk has reinvented the production line, which is now giga factories, which can produce anything at any time, change, right? Modify. But one of the things he said is it's not about the money. Not about the money. It's about making it bigger, growing it. His what motivates him is, and he started a whole line of hotels now. He's doing hotels on top of that. But his vision is, these boutique specialized hotels, and he's starting with the one or two that they've got, but he sees 10, 20 of them, and that's what's motivating him. And so that's what gets him going. Do you find that as a common kind of Jennifer Lanola, shout out Jennifer.
Hi Jennifer.
Norman, she says hello.
Hi, I see you. Hi.
So,
hi Jennifer.
That's his motivation. That's what gets him out of bed. That's what keeps him going. It's not the money. It's not the thing as much as it is the expansion or the idea of expanding and growing it. I'm trying to hone in on this like really difficult thing that if we could somehow, this is Padded 2, if we can somehow share this with people in our audience, this is how you create self-discipline. This is how you get things done. It's a mindset. I'm passing it back to you.
It's a mindset. Everybody that has created greatness never chased money. It's not in the formula. It's like the fifth or seventh thing down that is involved in being an entrepreneur. It's their idea. It's their discipline, their teamwork. You need to be focused. You have to understand the goal. the end. They figure out pathways to solutions. That's what they do. That's what entrepreneurs do. They're always doing pathways to solutions. And it doesn't make a difference if they are manufacturing or they're scientists.
Mm-hmm.
When you read the history of these great scientists that have designed stuff that we cannot even understand, even if it's put into a book, we can read it, we don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot take a person that is a Phi Beta Kappa Shakespeare scholar and ask them to write a play equal to Hamlet. It just is not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to produce something on that level comes from the self.
But Norman, so not, greatness is rare. It's fleeting in a way as well, right? Nothing lasts forever. But the nugget within that I think you came up with, and we're talking about it, and it ties back to Morteza as well. And I'm sure others out there can relate to this. It's that goal. Set the goal, right? The goal is what's
and never give it up.
And then
that's the point. They never give it up.
And then you're working all different directions, and that drives the self-discipline. So the goal has to be strong enough. You have to be passionate enough about it that you're willing to do whatever it takes to move it forward.
And you have to share it so that you bring in the talent that can help you on your way, because even though you have all these ideas, you don't have the discipline to make it happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen. Yes, it doesn't happen without a team. If you take a look at every corporation, every invention, anything that has happened in this whole pandemic and finding the resources to come up with a serum. There are 15 different scientific organizations working with thousands of scientists to come up with a solution, and maybe multiple will happen, and they're all working with the same set of facts.
Mm-hmm.
And until they determine how to kill this virus, how to create by that I mean an immune system, how the immune system doesn't allow the virus to affect the body, that it dies in the body because it's a weak virus. It just has a tremendous effect in the short run. It kills you in the short run. If you can survive it, you get an antibody. If you can't survive it, then you become part of the earth. Yeah. It's a real heavy quandary of how to figure this out. There are literally thousands of people working on this solution.
Yeah, around the world.
Around the world. Elon Musk created something that even NASA couldn't create. He created a rocket that blasts off, goes into the space, and then he can land the rocket on a pad in the middle of nowhere on a 300 square foot pedestal.
Barge floating in the water.
Yeah, he's amazing what he can do, right? NASA can't even do that. And as an independent guy, that's why, that's what he brings to the...
Norman, time out.
Yeah.
He's really good at hiring brilliant minds and motivating them.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. It's not him. It's his team.
He's got the vision.
Yes, he's got the vision, and he brings in the team. Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So people that achieve greatness is because they put great people around them. And when you deal with an entrepreneur, you're dealing with a person that has a vision, that knows how to do this. And that's why there's millions of entrepreneurs and a small amount of billionaire entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think that there's more people, and as you know, there are more people out there who are entrepreneurs than realize they're entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And so they can't relate, because America's really built this whole entrepreneur thing around billionaires, right? And so people can't relate now to being an entrepreneur in the same way they may have.
And that's the mistake they're making, because before they were billionaires, they weren't.
Right. Everybody has to start. That's why I said it's every small business, every large, big corporation was a small business at one time.
Yeah.
And so we all sort, but mindsets are hard. And so that's why I'm still honing in on this discipline, because this discipline piece is a differentiator and it will allow people to get unstuck in today's situation, which is easily a sticky spot, right? So you're sticky already, and so it's easy to get stuck. But this is important. That's why I talked about setting, your daily tasks and thinking in 1 week, 1 month, 6 month time frames. And now we're honing in on this really important, critical piece, which could be the great differentiator, not having to create greatness, but just move to a better and different place than you're at right now is what I'm thinking.
And we have examples of exactly that. And the easiest example to do is sports, because most people around the planet understand sports. So if you take American football, it's a 60-minute timed game. There's an offense and a defense, and that means you're working 30 minutes, but there's special teams. So maybe you're working 25 minutes, and maybe each play is 7 seconds. So what you're doing is you're working a total of actual action 6 minutes, and you're rehearsing and practicing for 60 hours every week, year round, for that 6 minutes. That's the discipline. What they're doing is running drills, sitting, looking at plays, getting coaching, understanding the mechanics, and it changes every week because they're looking at every team they're playing and who's on the opposite side of the football. The same thing with basketball. In baseball, the job of a batter is to pick up the ball from the pitcher's hand so he can see the stitching and understand the spin at that point, so that a tenth of a second later, he knows if he's going to get a fastball, a curve, a slide, or a changeup. They have to pick that up. They have to see that. And what it comes out as is they have to look at 10,000 pitches a week to get that discipline. They need to do that. That's why they have batting cages. That's why they do this. It's not because it's fun to bang a ball. It's to be great. You want to be great. That's why there's so few pros, because no one is willing to put in their life's blood in getting it. And entrepreneurs have to give up their life. And that's the first requirement, is that you stop being an individual.
Yeah, I mean, you're more, and I understand that. And I think that this relates to why there's so much stress that entrepreneurs have, because
of course,
it becomes all consuming. There's no everything. It becomes blurred lines, because now your life and it's just work. And so,
and no entrepreneur ever has one business. The ones that are successful have gone through so many different iterations of businesses and finally one. And even with Facebook and Microsoft and all the other ones, the people that are running these businesses are doing it in so many different levels, just like you are, because what you're doing is creating a platform for people to come in free thinking, doing their business, understanding the mechanics, and bringing it to a next level. In your case, you're bringing it to a revenue level. However, the revenue is really down the road. It's the discipline that will bring you to the revenue. You don't get to the goal unless you take the path. There's no revenue in the path.
You got to take action.
You do. And it's every moment of time. Entrepreneurs think it, dream it, and it doesn't happen unless they write it down. You could never memorize this stuff. If you don't commit that to writing, then it doesn't work. You can never remember it.
Right.
That's why people write books. That's why they have theories. That's why professors do all this publishing, because you can never do it. You have to commit it to writing.
Visualize.
Without that, it's never memorialized.
Let me ask you this question, Norm, before we break away here. And I really am grateful you've been here, and thanks for sharing as you have. Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, I apologize, but I had some questions that were directly related
No reason to apologize.
to Norman's being with us today. There were a few questions that were
Some questions.
yeah. So
Let's have them.
coming through Facebook, and so I thought since I could give them to you. Okay. One moment.
All right, you ready, Norman? You're gonna answer.
Yeah, sure.
Co-coaching here. I'll read it out loud. When starting your own business, what is the first and most important to think of or consider before anything else?
Do you want to give up your life?
Well, okay. I think that's a little heavy, and I don't think that that's necessarily the case. If somebody's got a job and they want to start a business and they want to keep their job and use the funding from their job to start their business, there's
I know. I'm being a little flippant. I know.
To starting any business is looking for a team. Who's going to be supportive of moving your business forward, and then really honing in and selling that product or service, whatever you have, as quickly as possible. Those are the two things I can say. And that way you're testing, and then you're designing your business model. Now, it's not a step-by-step process. It's things are happening all at the same time. You're building
integration.
You're selling your product. You're evolving your product. You're developing your marketing materials and promotional materials. You're building relationships and partnerships. All that's happening simultaneously.
Correct.
So, Norman, I'll pass it to you.
So, understanding that entrepreneurship is like you have to be existential for this. The way that a zygote becomes a person in the womb is that it's a cell, and it splits, and it goes from cell to cell to billions of cells. That's the way entrepreneurship is born. It's born by the ability to bring in what has to happen in order to make it work. And every so often there are imperfections, and you have to deal with that too.
So I'm gonna repackage what you said so it's at least understandable by more people. That as an entrepreneur and as a business builder, you're constantly expanding, right? And your opportunities are expanding. Your orbit is expanding. Your world is expanding, and you create expansion, is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
And that expansion needs to be harvested and needs to be collecting and focused in terms of what it is you're moving forward with, and helps you drive to revenue as quickly as possible.
And you have to discard what's not working and bring in what's working.
Rapidly.
It's a multifaceted discipline that doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end. If you take a look at all these firms, they're morphing. They're always changing. And the reason they're changing is because we change. We have that brain power is the most important thing. I use the expression, you have to break your brain.
I say reprogram.
I have another question.
Before we can leave, I'm going to refocus on this question. You got to make sure you're clear on your product and service. You need to build a team. You need to then start selling as quickly as possible. The key here is to start selling that product or service as quickly as possible to generate revenue. Develop your business model and design your business model as you go, and marketing and sales is all along with that. But you've got to have and understand your product and service, the value it's creating, and build a team around that. So those are the first things to focus on as you move forward. You got another question?
I do.
Amy?
I do.
And you do. Okay, here we go. I'll read it out loud. I have an idea.
I apologize. That's not the one. I'm so sorry.
You're teasing us.
This one.
I'm getting up at 5 a.m., going to work and working hard, then coming home and staying up late, working to make my ideas a business. How do I make sure my employer doesn't claim that I've stolen their secrets to start my own business or idea? Well, I have a lot of questions first. So I don't have any clue where you're at or what the situation is here, but first thing I would be doing is I'd be looking at your employment agreement. Review your employment agreement, number one. Number two, find the paragraph that says they own anything you come up with while you're working there, or it's not there. So if there isn't a paragraph that talks about ownership of intellectual property or inventions or whatever it may be while you're on the job, then congratulations. If it is written there, you need to get a lawyer right away and have that lawyer start advising you, because this is a legal issue. If you don't have the resources to identify a lawyer, look and see if you have a lawyer in your religious affiliations, if you have places of worship, if you have in your family, or anybody in your family knows somebody who's a lawyer who can come in and help you advise. But you need to protect yourself and understand legally where you stand before you invest too much time into something that may in fact not belong to you, because that idea somehow originated as a direct, indirect outcome of the work you're doing for another employer. Once all that's cleared up, what I would say is run. Norman, what do you got for him?
So that's very on point of what you're saying. And when you are a employee, there are certain rights and obligations that you have toward the firm. And so what Sean is saying is actually on point. I came out of the Wall Street, the broker-dealer industry. If you're doing anything, even as a volunteer, forget about revenue source, you have to inform the firm as to what you are doing. You cannot do it without their written approval. If they find out that you've been doing something on the side, it's cause for termination. It's a heavy price to pay.
Or they can sue you, and they have endless resources. And we're not. I think the key is we're not trying to scare anybody with this. You just have to be smart.
That's reality.
And the legality system in the U.S. is very different than it would be in Zambia or Kenya or Vietnam or Egypt. Name your country. So you're going to have to make sure you understand your legal rights, and you need to talk to a legal representative in your country. Is the very, very first thing I would be doing right now to make sure you're understanding where you're at in this, and how much trouble or opportunity you may have.
Final question.
One more? Yeah, we got lucky here. We got questions. Question: is university the right place to teach, learn entrepreneurship? Theory is taught, but can you teach entrepreneurship, which is practical application? I'm gonna let you go first, Norman.
Yeah, so I teach entrepreneurship at Long Island University, and I have lectured at the CUNY system in the sociology department, because sociologists want to start their own business, but they don't know how, because they don't take any business course. They take the social science courses. So I gave a lecture on the sociology of entrepreneurship.
Can you teach it, Norman?
I'm sorry?
Can you teach entrepreneurship is the question in a university?
Yes. And so the answer is you can open up the door. Entrepreneurship is self-learning. You have to learn what works and what doesn't work. And so the skill set, the only way I can explain it is you cannot learn to drive a car sitting in the back seat. You must jump in on it. And if you do that, you will have the techniques of learning, the disciplines. You can draw the playbook. You can read the play. You can get actors in a movie, in a play, and if you get 3 different actors doing the same movie, you can see how much more talented one is than another. That is the entrepreneur, the one that comes off with the greatest amount of talent, reading the same play, reading the same playbook. That's why there's a differentiator. So in answer to the question, these techniques can be taught in a university, and it's up to the student to own it, practice it, and bring it to the next level. Because I want every one of my students to be smarter and stronger and richer than me. So I give them the technique so that they can practice that. They have to pick up the ball, and they have to have the discipline to practice it.
Thank you, Norman. And I appreciate what you're saying, which is you can open the door to perceptions and opportunities in entrepreneurship presents to students, but then those students, it's up to them to decide what to do with it, and if it's a fit for them. It's not
100%. That's why you have athletes that get to the majors and then are dropped, and some that become all-stars. It's the same difference in corporate America.
Yeah, but the interesting to reverse that and spend as much money as they spend on sports at universities on entrepreneurship and see what would happen.
Well, that's the problem.
I have a different perspective on this. I mean, I agree. You can open the door of perception, but I think that we're educating maybe in the past few weeks, it's changed slightly where we're online, but in an 1800, early 1900 method of teaching for the most part. All right. And so it's very production line, employee kind of mentality, which is, follow and
cookie cutter.
It's cookie cutter. And we know it teaches the creativity out of people. We know that traditional education teaches creativity out of people. Mm-hmm. We know. So, and that the challenge I have with entrepreneurship being taught is so many times, and I know because we get called in to bring curriculum and train those professors, no experience, no knowledge, nothing associated with entrepreneurship, but yet they're the ones who've been assigned to teach entrepreneurship. You're an exception, and I love LIU for bringing someone like you in to teach this. But I think you have to question and the validity of university and the cost of university versus just going and starting a business. If you're an entrepreneur, it's better to go start a business. That's the PhD you want versus going into a university. And Warren Buffett, did you watch Warren Buffett's live broadcast of his shareholder meeting? It was last Saturday.
No.
He was asked, well, no, it wasn't there. It was an interview just before, but he was just asked a question about universities and just what does he think? And he literally is saying right now, he thinks it's not the best decision. If you're going to go to university today, so he'd recommend against it. This person who was interviewing basically was floored, couldn't handle it, went deeper with Warren, and Warren said, it was a waste of my time to go to university. I'm going to take it even further, and just kept doubling down on this guy until finally stopped asking him. And he said, doesn't this hurt your position in these different businesses? He says, it may well hurt my position, but the fact is, education is not the way to go. If you really want an education, go get it yourself and create your own career path. And so for me, if you're a young student, a young person, you've really got to consider what's in the best interest for you long term, and particularly with unemployment in the United States and around the world, what it is, if you're not creating value as a human, you're not going to get hired, or you're not going to get a gig, or you're not going to be able to create a business. So there's some kind of change potentially happening right now, but I would challenge people to really think before they go into a university today to decide if that's the right thing, particularly if they're interested in starting a business.
Yeah, so there, being a teacher, and I was a New York City school teacher many years ago as well, and there's moving parts here. There is no right answer, and that's what we do as educators. We have to discriminate. It's not a bad thing. Discrimination is not a bad thing. It's a choice that you make on what you're trying to put together in a way that allows outcomes to happen. And we're all about outcomes. Your whole business is about making people better, with a clearer view, with a broader scope, with making more money. It's about the outcomes. What education does, and we go back, if I can be a little esoteric about it, Plato created education. Without him, we would never have the colleges. He's the one that created this. The ability to understand knowledge and the discipline of what knowledge is about can only come from the discipline of a university. Where you're going to take it on a revenue source, I don't think that education, formal education is an entrepreneurship skill set. I think that being out there on your own is a better teacher than the theory that you could learn in an entrepreneurial course. So with what Warren Buffett said, based on what you said, I don't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
What I do understand is that understanding how the brain works is key to making things happen, and that's what college does. It allows to understand the discipline, and entrepreneurship is about discipline. And so that's why it has a value. So it's according to where you're going. If you're doing a specific function, not entrepreneurship, college has a very defined purpose. If you're doing a entrepreneurship function, you can learn more by hanging around those people that can teach you entrepreneurship in the real world. So we have a degree, a BS in entrepreneurship, and they eliminated it. And the reason they eliminated it is they couldn't get enough students to want to get a BS in entrepreneurship because the discipline is so specific. It is very hard work to be disciplined on creating a practice set, a business, create a business on paper that you can put together a business model, a business plan, an economic forecast, a discipline, bring in the talent, understand all the 9 aspects of a business model. The students don't know what you're talking about because they have to be out there to figure it out.
Yeah.
So they want to be given the magic pill, and there's nothing magic about entrepreneurship. You have to break your brain.
Hard work.
It's only hard work. That's the point.
It's harder.
There's nothing but hard work, and that's the easiest it gets, because you have to give up everything else. That's what entrepreneurs do. They give up everything.
Yeah.
How you have to be doing that, and that's why it's so difficult, and that's why it doesn't work in the classroom. So what Buffett said is enlightenment, and I understand. I could drill down and understand and explain why it doesn't work, having been there, because I've had more business I can't account. I've had like 9 businesses.
Yeah, I know.
And
we're gonna have to time out. You'll have to come back and join us again.
Yeah, sure.
This has been fantastic and a very important conversation. And what a great question to end on as well, because I know a lot of people are struggling with this, particularly those that may want to start a business, entrepreneurship or university. And I always, ask them to, and this is what I'd say to the person who answered that question. You need to get in a quiet space, close your eyes, and then just ask yourself the question and let yourself ponder it, and then the answer will come to you, and then you've got to decide to follow that answer. And if the answer is entrepreneurship over university, and oh my gosh, my parents are going to be really upset by this decision, you gotta set that goal, and as Norman said, never ever give up as you go forward and find.
All these billionaires never graduated college.
I know, that's what I was trying to say. They leave college, and
it's not for everybody.
And so that's not the kind of discipline that we're looking for, Norman. So
no.
You stay safe, please, my friend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm always around for you.
Thank you, Norman. Have a good one, buddy. Thanks for your help.
Bye.